Okay, hurry up. Sure, sure. So now, hi guys, hi to everyone. Hi to everyone. I think we're having a little bit of a buffer, and while we're still on that, we're still going to be we are really excited about this particular journey that we're actually going through, and we are actually waiting for Neo. So now, if you do have any questions, please put them down on the chat room. So now, if you heard about us on the Instagram page, please just give us a shout out in terms of your Instagram, or if you have been actually catching us through our YouTube channel, or whatever you have actually been looking at. If this has been your YouTube part, send us a YouTube on our screen. We really like to hear, where did you guys hear us from? Is it live? Hmm? Okay. Sure. We still have a little bit of time. And if you guys have any questions, if you do have any questions, please do actually post them down in the chat. We really like hearing from you guys. I think the main reason why we actually put do a live is that we actually want to hear your voices. So now most of the time when you're looking at your YouTube, you're always talking to this camera and then you don't actually understand that who's actually on the other side. So now if you have actually heard us or you are actually happy about this, please do actually give us a pro there. Pro. I think the pro is the most safest place that we can actually work with.
Today has been so exciting, guys. Just to let you in on what we've been doing is that we have been going around and looking for a venue so that we can host our live events. Because what's most important to us, especially with regards to sharing content about property investing, is that how can we actually connect with regards to talking about the real stuff about property itself, and not talking about the fluff. I know everybody hears about when you talk about rental. We all know that rental is good in terms of cash flow. When I'm talking about flip, I'm only talking about, okay, I'm going to get a house below market value, do some additions to it, then sell it back. But then what are the red tapes? I think that's the most interesting that's the most interesting thing about today, is that where are the red tapes and what is actually stopping people with regards to growing their portfolio? So I'm quite excited about today, man. I'm quite excited and I can't wait for 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left. Let's get going, guys. Let's get going.
If you do have any questions right now, please do actually post them on our feed there. We really like hearing from you guys.
Okay, so Yusuf already sent something. So I'm Yusuf, planning on starting my real estate business next year. Do you think it's a good time, 2021? I mean, Yusuf, do you know what? Speaking about time, even right now, people will be like, it's COVID-19 and then the interest rates are low, quite low. So is it a good time? I mean, with regards to time, let's rather look at if I'm investing myself, whatever time, and especially I know that I'm invested myself in property investing full time. I know that whatever time, 2021, 2041, 2081, property is the thing to go into. And not that I'm saying that there won't be obstacles that will prevent you from reaching your financial goals with property. However, there are, and it's about how do we go about it. Hence, today's topic was, if there are any red tapes or if I'm feeling stuck, how can I go around property investing? So I say 2021, let's go, Yusuf. Let's go,
man. As I was looking at this particular thing, if it's actually streaming good, I saw the thumbnail. It's a really interesting thumbnail there. It's a really interesting thumbnail. So now let's also go live on the Instagram so that we can actually start there. Okay, so now we have another question. I'm so keen to chat with you guys on Tuesday. Oh, it's awesome. It's always awesome to actually have a chat with you guys. I mean, this is one of the important things that we needed to start with this whole particular platform. So now what we were saying is that let's open up our whole community and have a chat with you guys. See where you guys are and how can we actually add value to your particular property chain. So it was also having a chat with you too.
There we go.
So we're also live on Instagram. Let's begin. Let's begin. So now the topic of today, what we actually wanted to talk about, is that why do actually people feel stuck in their property journey? Why do people actually feel stuck in their property journey? This is one of the most, I mean, whichever plot or part you are in your property journey, at some point you are actually going to be feeling stuck when you are doing a loan. So now, when you're looking at feeling stuck, I think the first thing that I actually wanted to highlight is that when you're actually starting and you have all of this information based on property investing, it's not actually made in a way whereby it's a blueprint whereby this is going to be where you're going to start. So now the first thing that you need to do is ABC, right? So now what we're always looking at is that when you're looking at your property investing journey, you are looking at that, how do I actually start? Is there a secret sauce on how do I actually start with property investing? So now seeking the right information and having a blueprint on where to actually start, how do I then actually increase my property, or how do I fast track my property journey? That's something that's actually dear to my heart. Because now we find a lot of people that are saying that, you know what, I'm into property investing, but now I do not want a mentor. I mean, even if you are a doctor, imagine someone saying that I'm really passionate about being a doctor, but I don't feel like it's very important for me to actually go study for becoming a doctor, right? Or having a mentor of how to actually become a doctor. So now that's one of the most important things to actually be looking at. That when I am going to start with my property journey, who do I actually place as my mentor to actually guide me on how do I actually increase my property journey, or how do I actually get me started?
I mean, with property investing, guys, when I look at property investing, or when I hear about property investing, it's one of those topics whereby somebody will say property is the biggest investment that one can do in their life. So now, if we are placing property investing on that platform whereby it's the biggest investment that one can do, I mean, here we're talking about 1.5 million, we're talking about 5 million, we're talking about 10 million. Now, if I do not have that necessary knowledge of how I am going to grow, or I'm just hoping that I'm going to get my first property, which is about, even if it's 700,000. So that 700,000 is still a lot to somebody. So now, if I'm not already thinking about what is my next step or how am I going to grow, I already started property investing on a bad note. Because this is we see this with a whole lot of people that, you know what, guys, I've heard about refinancing. So I have my property, and how can I grow to my second property? And then now we'll be like, okay, you heard about refinancing and you want to remove equity. So when I'm talking about equity, just so that I can accommodate everybody, so I'll further break it down. When we're talking about equity, that's when we are saying that, okay, let's say this property is worth 1 million. So if it's worth 1 million and I put in a deposit of 300,000, I already know that my equity, how much I own of that property, is 300,000. So if you did not do that and you went for 100% bond, now it will be quite tricky when I come back and say, you know what, I've heard somebody talking about refinancing and I'd like to do that with my property, only to find out that you got it 100%, and yes, you have been paying for the past 2 months or the past 3 months. However, now when you go back to the bank and say, hey guys, you know what, I'd actually like to refinance the property that I have right now, it will be a challenge, because they'll also look at how much equity do you have. Because I mean, on a house of 1 million, and let's say I've been paying 5,000 a month. After 3 months, I know that I would have paid 15,000. So that's the equity that I have. I have 15,000 over that 1 million. And now the bank will be looking at, okay, how much equity do you have with regards to the example that I made right now? and that will only be 15,000. So on that 15,000, how much loan will you be asking for? Because what we usually do is that we look at the equity that we have, and then I'll say, you know what, the loan that I'm going to take based on how much I owned on that property, that's how much I'm actually going to ask for.
So now when you're looking, I think you actually pointed out something good. When I am going to be buying a property, first thing I need to know is that I need to be buying this particular property below market value. So now I can go through the same thing that Nell was just talking about, thing of refinancing. So now if you are actually going to be buying your property at market value, you're going to have a problem in terms of how do I now move from the property that I have to the next property? I mean, trust me, it's always a hassle telling someone that a particular property that you bought doesn't actually make business sense and you need to sell, right? This is one of the most emotional things that people actually think about. Because now when you're thinking about it, we all go to those braais, those nice places whereby we're going to be sitting and telling my friend that, yeah, man, I have 3 properties. But now, when you go deeper into this particular problem that you have right now, we need to actually remove our emotions away from this particular property. Look at this property if it does make business sense, and if it does make business sense, that's when we can actually say that, you know what, let's actually buy this property. Or you know what, this property doesn't actually make sense. Let's cut our losses right now and then move on to the next property.
I mean, with what you just mentioned right now, Lev, is that when we're going into property investing, it's that thing that it needs to make business sense. So whatever that I'm putting in, I know that I'm looking at getting something out. So if I'm not getting a return on investment of X amount, it's going to be hard again to actually grow from that particular property, because that will mean that I have to take out money from my pocket. And now that's where that question comes through. Am I running it as a business, or is it more of I've got money and I just want to buy a lot of properties and I'm not interested in the revenues? So I think with property investing, what we need to do that's very crucial is that we shouldn't just look at the property itself. We should look at, I'm buying the property and this is the return on investment. So when I'm looking at that return on investment, that's when I'll know when I'm going to break even, number one. Number two, I'll know that, okay, with this thing, this is the return on investment that I'm getting. So why am I speaking about return on investment so many times? If I'm going to be taking money out of my bank account and putting it into a property, I need to know for sure that I'll be getting a better return from where it was.
Yeah. So now, basically, what Nell was actually talking about right now, I really like it, right? So now, how we actually be looking at property investing is that I'm going to be looking at property investing as a business, and I'm also going to be looking at property investing as an investment. So now, in the side of investment, I'm actually going to be saying that, okay, since this is going to be my investment, I need to actually compare it with the other investments that I have. So now, say for instance, right, you go to one of the financial institutions and then they tell you that, okay, you only have this one investment that you can do, right? And it's going to give you, say for instance, a 3% return, right? When you're looking at that particular investment, you need something to compare it to, right? So now if this first one is saying that they're going to give you a 3%, and then the other one is saying that, no, we will actually give you a 3.5% based on how much you actually have right now, then we are most likely to take the 3.5%. So now, same thing, you're going to be using it in property investment. If right now I had 100,000 Rand that's sitting in my bank and it's in an investment, right? If I am actually going to be taking out that money and putting it in a property, I need to know what I'm doing, firstly. Secondly, I need to know how much will I actually be getting from this particular property and actually putting it into this particular property.
So, and I think the most important thing that a lot of people feel stuck in their property journey is because they bought it on emotions. As sad as it is when you're sitting with somebody and we're looking at the type of property they have and they're not generating a good return on investment, or even went to a part whereby they have to take out money from their own pocket, and you know that this was not a property to invest in. So now, how do you actually come through and tell this person that, you know what, the property that you bought doesn't make financial sense? That's quite a harsh topic to actually talk about. But I honestly believe that, you know, through speaking about the harsh things in life, that will actually make us get to a resolution, because the problem is not losing in property. It's not losing. So we have actually made our losses. We have made bad mistakes. But now realizing that you are in a problem, that will actually make you grow fast again. Because, I mean, if I realize that the property that I currently have right now, I'm not generating a good return on investment, I'm actually running at a loss, and I do take that decision that, you know what, if I want to grow my property portfolio, I need to let go. So it's one of those things whereby, as harsh as it is, you need to understand that, is this property growing my portfolio, growing my business or not? And then you need to take that decision that, you know what, this is X decision and I need to actually move on with that loss.
So now another reason why a lot of people feel stuck in their property investing journey is that they want to be doing everything by themselves, right? So now as a property investor, you need to have the mentality of a business owner, right? As a business owner, I don't want to do my administration. I don't want to be the security guard. I don't want to check in my clients. I don't want to check out my clients. All I'm doing is that I'm going to be finding a good deal, right? So now when I'm looking at property investing, my sole job is to find a good deal, get a power team to actually be in that particular deal, and then that's the way that we are actually going to be doing it. So now in terms of property investing, I know property investing, right? There's nothing that, okay, maybe not nothing, but I know how to actually get a good deal, right? So now when someone else comes to my team, they need to actually be putting in something that I do not know. So now say for instance your accountant. My accountant will be the one that will be balancing all of my sheets. They will be the one that will be handing in my invoices to SARS. They will be the one that will actually be checking that how do we actually use the tax on our side, right? So now that's his job. And my job is to actually find the right deal. That's something that I really want to make clear. So now we have the question from Yusuf that says that how do I build a good relationship with the NHBRC? So now that particular question, it's strongly related to the construction guys. So now if you do actually have or do want that particular answer to that, we can actually link it with our construction guide and that you can actually have a conversation in terms of that. Because now we are actually solely focused on the property investing in terms of getting that particular deal. And then with regards to how the property is actually going to be built or the material that is going to be needed to build that particular thing, that's the construction guy that handles everything.
And another thing, guys, I think we all undervalue, we undervalue the fact that the numbers side, especially with the number side. So Level's the numbers guy, so he'll always be saying that it doesn't make sense in terms of financial. We underestimate the power of numbers because at the end of the day, numbers is what drives our property business. Numbers is what helps us to grow. So if the numbers don't make sense, the property is as good as selling it. To just put it out bluntly. Because now if you do have a property and it's chowing your money and you like, let me give you a practical example. I want to do, so I'm on my calculator right now, I'm not on Instagram. So if let's say I've got X property and then I'm actually putting in 2,000 just to balance everything so that I can go to the next month. And I'm like, you know what guys, 2,000 is not so much. If I'm sitting with such a client and I want to show them that this 2,000 is a lot, I'm going to say, okay, the 2,000 multiplied by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So in a year, you would have spent 24,000. And if you're still saying that 24,000 rand is not a lot, what I'm going to do is that this 24,000 multiplied by 20. The reason why I'm multiplying it by 20, I'm assuming that my agreement with the home loan guys, they said, okay, let's go for 20 years. So I'm going to further multiply the 24,000 by 20 and I would have received 480,000. So what does that mean? It means that I've been taking out money from my pocket to sustain the business, the property business itself. And then now at the end of 20 years, I would have taken out 480,000. So I don't know, for me, that's quite bad. I don't know what you'd say. So I think in the comment section, guys, you can tell me if the 480 is not a lot for you. I say big ups. But in terms of, for me, it's one of those things whereby I wouldn't go for that deal.
So now, also, with the reason that why people actually feel stuck in their property journey, it's because they do not have the relevant information in terms of how long is it actually going to take for me to move from one property to the next, right? So now we've all, I'm sure, on Instagram, guys, please give me a like if you had one of these. If you have actually received a message from someone saying that they're selling Bitcoin and then they can actually get you money in the next 2 weeks, just send a thumbs up. So now, when you're looking at this type of society, what you need to understand is that you're working with a different type of mindset, right? So now, in property investing, when I'm talking about not my long term, but my medium term, I'm now looking at 5 years. So now, in a period of 5 years, G has a thumbs up. So now, when I'm looking at a period of 5 years, I'm now looking at how now do I actually structure my property journey in a way whereby it's going to be increasing sustainably for the next 3 years, right? So now if I was under the impression that it's only going to take me 2 years to get 20 properties. I know that it's going to be unrealistic, especially if you're starting without nothing, right? I mean, if mommy has 10,000 or not 10 million, mommy has 10 million to actually give you and say that, okay, here's 10 million to actually invest, then that's something else, right? But now, if you are actually starting without anything and saying that I'm going into the property market and then in the next 2 years I'll have 20 properties, that will be under me. That is going to be close to impossible. So now let's be realistic in how we are actually going to be growing our portfolio. Another way is that when you're looking at your cash buyers, right? We have people that are saying that I don't actually go through credit. I'm looking at being a cash buyer. So now let's put this into perspective. So now say for instance this particular property that we're buying is 1 million and it took you 20 years to actually save until that 1 million, right? Because you'll be having an additional amount of income coming to you, you need to wait for the next, say for instance, 10 years, right? 10 years to get the next million. So now,
can you make a practical example?
Let's make a practical example.
Sure.
So now, when you're looking at 10 million, right?
Property is 1 million.
The property is 1 million. Sure. So now it takes us 10 years, no 20 years. It takes us 20 years to actually get that 1 million, of which sometimes people do actually go 10 years without receiving that 1 million. So now we're going to say, if it actually took us 10 years to make that 1 million, now that we already bought this particular property, say for instance now our cash flow is going to be actually coming faster. It's going to take you maybe, say for instance, 7 years to make the other 1 million. So now that means that you will be actually working on an interval of 10 to 17 years to get your 2 properties. So now the best way to actually increase or fast track your particular property journey is through credit. But now with credit, I want to emphasize this. I know the one side is that credit is good, right? But now the other side is that with credit, if you do not know if this property is the right property to actually buy again, then please do not actually buy a property based on credit. But now if you do understand that how does the market actually work, then you can actually buy it based on credit.
I mean, when you go in the credit, I like what you just mentioned right now. We had an interview yesterday whereby we were speaking about credit, and it's quite interesting. I mean, you get advice from 2 types of people. There's 2 types of people that I believe. More of the guys that are aggressive towards credit, that, you know what, I'm more offensive. So when I get credit, I'm spending. And when I'm saying that I'm spending on investments. And then you get number 2 person, whereby they'll be like, you know what, credit is not so good. I suggest that you actually cut your credit card. And then that's more of a defensive type of person who's looking at it from a perspective whereby you can actually get into bad debt. However, now I feel that it's very important as property investors to understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. And once you understand the difference between the two, that's when you can position yourself and take advantage of credit. Like, I'll emphasize again that we are more offensive towards credit. If the bank can call us today, and I think we've said this more than 1,000 times, and I'll still say it again, if the bank can call me today and say, you know what, you guys are great, you guys are good guys, how about we increase your credit limit by 100,000? I'll be like, stop asking, chief, just do it now. Because what that does is that I can get into more projects, or I can use that money in order to develop the project that I'm currently in. And by that time, I would have calculated my return on investment. And how do I do that? I'm going to look at, okay, my credit option actually gives me this X amount of years or months to pay it back. And this is the amount that they're going to charge me in terms of interest. So now, if I was playing more of the defensive game whereby I do not want credit, that ties a link with Lego's question. Okay, I'm going to wait for X amount of years to actually buy my next property because I'm a cash buyer. It's great to hear that I'm a cash buyer. But now, by looking at it in terms of realistically speaking, when you're looking at scaling, when you're looking at growing, it's going to take you more time to grow, not unless if you do have 100 million stash under capital. In that way, you are going to grow faster. However, now if you're growing via credit and you know that you need to actually run your numbers, that I'll emphasize, guys, property is a numbers game. It's not an emotional game. We do not buy property based on a nice jacuzzi or there's a jacuzzi and there's even a swimming pool outside. It's more of the numbers game. So if you are defensive towards credit, I'd rather challenge you. Let's look at credit in terms of investment purposes. If you're looking at it at investment purposes, whatever, even when it comes to gold, you need to know what is your return on investment that you're looking at so that you can scale.
So now what I like and what stands out from that particular thing is that you can actually use credit to actually fast track your process, right? But now, remember, this part also needs to also stand out. If you are writing down notes, please write this down in bold or highlight it in red or something. If you do not know or you're not sure if this particular thing that you are investing in is actually going to be giving you money, then do not play the credit game.
Sure.
Right? Do not play the credit game if you do not know what you're doing. But now, if you do know what you're doing and you are 100% sure that, you know what, if I do actually invest in this particular thing, it's actually going to give me money, then by all means, go for credit.
I'd like to challenge everybody. I'd like to just see the audience in terms of everybody's out there. Tell us, are you more of offensive to credit or defensive? Just before we had this conversation, I'm hoping that most of us here are more of offensive, looking at it, let me invest. If I can have money, access to money, and I can invest, why not? So I'd like to hear in terms of if you were offensive or defensive towards credit before we had this chat. So we'll just wait. We'll just hear from the viewers while we still continue.
You can just put in an offensive there or a defensive.
Okay, there we go. We have Fawaz is saying that he's offensive. He's offensive to credit. But guys, as we did mention, even Sean says he's offensive to credit. But even I'd like to emphasize something is that we did say with credit, we're looking at it as an investment opportunity. We're looking at it as an investment opportunity. So if there is credit, let us go for it. Or we even have Lady G who says that she's offensive to credit.
I think credit is the actually best way to actually fast track.
Even Jimmy.
We have Jimmy on the tube that's saying that offensive. Man, offensive is always the best way. But now remember, I'll emphasize it for the last time. I promise it's the last time. Offensive with credit needs to be backed by information and knowledge about what you are actually doing. Because I don't want to be in a situation whereby they say that yes, those guys said I need to be offensive when I'm looking at credit. But now, only to find out that it doesn't actually make sense for you to be offensive in that particular deal.
So yeah, that's it, guys. I'd like to also emphasize before we close off today's session is that with property investing, it's real. Property investing is real. There's so many challenges. Towards it. If I should just open up the challenge that we were currently having right now is that we spent so much time just on the transfer side. The transfer took so much time that it got to a point whereby we were so angry that we were wanting to actually go back and say we'd like to withdraw the offer that we made. However, now through the information that we've received, through the network that we've had around us, we actually had that information whereby, you know what, guys, the support group, creating a support group. Now we know that, you know what, how about we take these people to the lawyers, even though it does mean that we're going to take X amount from our pocket. However, we show them how serious we are. So as I did emphasize that there's so many blocks towards property investing. However, if we can create that network, that's what we're doing right now. We want to create a network with everybody here right now so that when we grow together. Because I believe that the challenge that I'm currently in property, somebody did face it, and hence we knew that there's a solution towards it. Even if you are in a problem right now, let us come together and see how we can actually add value to that challenge that you currently have.
Most definitely. So now if you do have a question in terms of property investing or how you can actually fast track your property investing journey, then please do send us an email at property@nongwealth.co.za. I think I'll just put it on the chat over there. It's property@nongwealth.co.za. Okay. If you do have any questions for the last seconds, if you do have any questions, please do post them down below in comments. If you do have any questions, please post them down on comments. Property@nongwealth.co.za.
Is there any questions with regards to if you're feeling stuck? So if you feel that you're stuck, whether you're in the beginning stage, from the information stage to whereby you want to sell but you do not know the right price for selling, or your property has been on the market for X amount of months and you don't understand why, this is the platform that we're currently opening up to you so that we can discuss such matters, because we did mention that at the end of the day, the relationship that we want with you, it's not to hype you guys that property investing is the best, we can all become millionaires. Let's speak about the real things about property. Let's talk about the losses in property. let's talk about anything that you want that can actually act as that barrier towards achieving your financial goals through property investing.
For some reason, I feel that people are actually shy. So now, if you do have a question and you want us to actually look at your particular question, please do send us an email at property@nongwealth. So now what we will do is that we will actually schedule a Zoom meeting with you, right? Schedule a Zoom meeting with you and then see how we can actually help you in your journey. So, looking forward to seeing you.
Guys, it's been awesome streaming with you guys. And I did mention that today, just to give you feedback before we close, today we come from 3 venues. We want to book a conference hall and then have fun. Discuss property investing, especially the bad things about property investing. So when we go into property investing, we go with that sober mind and we know that it's on.